Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your questions 7 days a week. Let's go ahead and jump into those questions. Bill, what do we have?
First one comes from Kent in Madison, Ohio, and Kent wonders, is there a good case and stand for a Galaxy S23 Ultra? Seems like all the cases and or stands break or get weak after a time. Is there a better alternative to protect my phone and watch things on my phone? Thanks.
Go, Bill.
I'm not in the Galaxy ecosystem, but here's my strategy always for cases. I always try to get a case as soon as I get any new device. And to me, I want to go to one of the premium dealers and look at what they're recommended. Since I'm in the iPhone ecosystem, what I do is I look at what the Apple Store has, knowing that if someone has research about quality of cases, it's going to be a vendor like that. So on the Galaxy side, I would see if you talk to either their internal stores or something like that. Outside of that, it's getting into that list of who uses them and what the overall discussion is. I will say cases have been a nightmare for everybody that I've ever talked to that's gone deep into the third party, just online cases, because it's a commodity market, and a lot of people try to make very cheap cases. So your experience with people breaking cases and them not working out well, I read reports of that all the time. So I just stay at the top end. Sorry, I can't give you more suggestions than that.
Go ahead, Harshid.
I'm going to go for OtterBox. OtterBox really makes some sturdy cases. I have an S22 Ultra. I really like the case. It's low profile. I use the Defender cases on most of my phones because of the lip on the front of the phone. So if I slam the phone or the phone falls, it's going to hit the weighted corners first. I have great experience with them. If you're looking for something like a rig, I would say small rig and such would probably fit your phone. Look at the size, because most phones are the similar size to an iPhone. So if it's a 6.8-inch phone that it holds, then you're in good shape with, let's say, an Ultra phone. Just sometimes they advertise more iPhone first, and it's not written for Samsung or written for Pixel. But in any case, OtterBox, I would still say high remarks on those cases, and they're really sturdy.
Code Courtney.
I found this spider case. It's clear for the S23 Ultra, and it has one of the problems with it is because of its magnetic charging on the back. You want a case that won't interfere with that and still has a kickstand or something that'll pop out. And this one does that. It has a kickstand on the side that you can pop out. I don't know. I guess it will hold it vertically as well. If it'll pop out, and you can lean it back onto it with the cameras up top. But it's not bad. You can find it on Amazon, and it's from Spider Case.
Yeah, another one to look at is Armor. Armor Case makes some pretty good ones. They're all metal, so it depends on whether you want something heavier. But that's another one to look at. Next question.
Looks like Rafat Al-Sayed in Toronto, Canada is up next. How does it work when some big live productions or broadcast news channels on YouTube show that they've been live for months? For example, I noticed streams labeled as started streaming on November 25th, 2022 and are still live.
Yeah, you can stream as long as you want on YouTube. I've accidentally streamed for weeks by leaving my encoders on, and so it'll handle that. You just can't record, so you won't have DVR past 12 hours. So it used to be 4 hours; it's now 12, I think. But you can't replay it later. But if you just want it to be a raw stream, then you can let it run. I don't know how long Lo-Fi Girl has been going, but it is, let's see how, because
years, right?
I think Lo-Fi Girl has been running for, wait for it, there's 24,000 people watching Lo-Fi Girl right now, and it started on July 12th, 2022. So yeah, so that's even earlier than the 2022 that you saw here. And so, and yeah, Lo-Fi Girl is, if you haven't, I mean, most of us have heard of Lo-Fi Girl. So, but if you haven't heard of Lo-Fi Girl, this is, that's all it is, it's just, she's just writing, and it's kind of, a lot of people use it as their test video, or they use it as just kind of background music while they're working. And there's a whole community. There's actually a whole Discord just for people who listen to Lo-Fi Girl. So anyway, and there's a couple of these now, but just when you think that you're doing all this work to try to get a lot of viewers, Lo-Fi Girl's got 14.7 million subscribers. And this is the only video that I think is ever played, out of here. So So anyway, so that there you go. It's but a lot of people use it as background music, and as you can see, because there's 26,000 people watching, 25,000 watching it right now. So anyway, so that's that. But that they've been running, and they've gone 3-4 years. I don't even know why they turn it off when they turn it off, but it'll run for years. So yeah, you can do it. Next question.
Next one comes to us from Hasmut Gujar, our friend in Cape Town, South Africa. Nice to see Kenn on the panel. Since you moved to Ireland and embarked on your eco journey, what learnings from office hours are you applying in this venture? What tech are you leveraging to share your journey, especially your website?
Go ahead, Kenn.
Hi, Hasmut, thanks for the question. We are, I'll just let you know, I've moved to Ireland. We are, next year, we've put money on property, and we are going to be renovating it. And I'll be building a studio there, so I'll be on office hours a lot more and helping me design from scratch, building a new studio. But learnings presently I'm doing, I now go swimming every morning in the sea, and I take, it was one of Alex's recommendations as this bracket here. So I mount my iPhone on that, and this many tripod, and record myself each morning going into the sea. A few questions asked about recording audio in the set, outside in the wind and the windsock, and what mics and stuff to get. So I'll be appearing on office hours a lot more, being in after hours a lot more, because there's a lot I'll be pulling from the community to help me, build a studio and also record video. Obviously, I've got my Vision Pro, so I'm recording in using the Vision Pro. Very interested in the Blackmagic camera, on the wait list. So I shall be, as soon as that arrives, or when eventually I get one, be recording in that. So I'm sure Alex would be interested in.
Definitely want to see what you record from there. We should definitely talk. If you end up with that camera in Ireland, we should definitely talk about things that we could cover, because I'm pretty excited about that. Have you done any shooting with, and you're on the 16, on the iPhone 16? Or 15?
I'm still on the 15 Pro Max, so I've been shooting with that. I'll get the 16, but there wasn't much thing getting the 16 yet, and because of the Apple AI features. But I will get the 16 because I know that can record ambisonic. Because when I go to the beach, I want to take as minimal kit as possible,
right?
Recording that. So the 16 in ambisonic would be
big.
Be using that.
Yeah, that's great. So welcome back. It's exciting to have you on, Kenn. Hopefully, we'll see more of you. Now, are you going to build? Are you going to build a studio underground? Every time someone says they're going to build a new studio in the backyard, I'm always like, "Are you going to dig into the ground?" Because that's
rammed earth time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, luckily, where we are is really quiet. I mean, it's the only thing you hear is going to be hearing is the bird song and the sea in the distance. So we don't need to be quite that dramatic, but it will be.
You'll know when I have stupid money, if I ever have stupid money, because I'll have a little house down the hill that looks exactly like Bilbo Baggins. Like
that's studio. I knew it.
It's kind of been my dream for since I was like 7. And so someday I'll cut a hole in the ground. Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing what you come up with the studio. It should be cool. Next question.
Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas, up next. Animate AI is the, quote, world's first all-in-one AI video generator designed specifically for creating animated video series, close quote, according to the maker Helen Xiong, looks like. Would you use it to spice up your Zoom meetings? And he's got a link there to animateai.pro.
Go ahead, Kenn.
Yeah, there's a lot within this one. You have to be on the wait list. I'm not on the alpha program, the beta program for it. With a lot of these, they're still, as good as that is, and it is very good, until it comes out properly in public release, then we can really see on how well it can be used in any level of production. But while it's still now it's in alpha, soon to be beta. It's a bit too early to tell on how useful and good the videos are. But as with all of the AI stuff, I'm got VO, Sora. When Sora was released, and then 2 days later, Google released VO, the speed of improvement and development in text to video is really breathtaking. All the kind of artifacts you used to see before, VO that Google's released is amazing, and they're just going to get better and better.
Good, Courtney.
Yeah, I took a brief look at this, and it does generate some pretty interesting animation. Right now, I think it's limited to 30 seconds, but you do it in a period of stages, and consistency has always been the problem with the text-to-video generators, including Veo that is out there now. You create your character first, and then you storyboard, and then you feed it the story. So it has a consistent character generator. So once you choose a character, or maybe build a character, then you can create a storyboard and create your story for, I think, up to 30 seconds. A 30-second video generator then is the next step. And the cost, as Ken said, it's probably not available yet. It's in kind of a pre-release version. I think it's a subscription-based system that costs about $40 a month. So, if you create short animated pieces, and they don't say whether or not you'll be able to go longer than 30 seconds or be able to string segments together, which I suppose you could always do if you had consistent characters and scenery across from one video to the next. It looks interesting.
Next question.
Next one comes to us from Mariela Zushamira in Webelow. We have DJI X7 6K cameras that produce 34 gigabyte files. We want to concatenate these files. How do we do it easily? Files are ProRes RAW. I have used MPEG Streamclip, and it is 32-bit.
Go, Jason.
The files coming off of the X7 6K should automatically concatenate if you just simply sort by file name. It should be DJI underscore, number.
I think they want to get them all. I think they want to get them all into one file.
Well, in which case I would use FFmpeg or I would use Hedge. Hedge can combine things, I believe. That's my way of doing it.
You can definitely. There's definitely. I think Shutter Encoder will do it as well. I think that Compressor might actually do it. But typically, when I have a whole bunch of clips, I have to admit that I tend to take it into Final Cut. Especially if it's ProRes files, I just tend to drag them all into Final Cut. That way, I can just check every transition. So it's a little like if you use something automatic, you can. But sometimes if there's any kind of glitch or anything that's going on there, you won't see it, and then it's hard to find. So it's really easy when you drag something into Final Cut to jump in. And I use Resolve for a lot of things. I don't use it for this because I don't want to do anything. I just wanted to open it up and do something and look at it. That tends to be how I do that. But you should be able to use a variety of tools that are able to look at a folder and grab onto them. But it just, as long as they're named in a way that's going to, if they're listing correctly, you should be okay. Next question.
Next question comes from Peter Rosado in Las Vegas, Nevada. For owners of the Kondor Blue USB-C Media Hub for iPhone 15-16, have you had success in using the HDMI out? Unfortunately, I'm struggling with this simple thing. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is what he's talking about here. This is the Kondor Blue here. This is, you can see this little, and what's nice about it is that it has a lot of the features that we want in and out, but it also is made out of metal and will attach to your rigs. I have to admit that I have not tried to do the HDMI, but now that Peter has asked, I'll see if I can figure that out today. But I haven't attempted to connect to an HDMI yet because it's just not something I do very often from my phone. So we'll test that. Try to ask maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. Give me a day or two, and we'll play with it and see if we can figure that out. Next question.
Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona is up next. For producer to talent comms while live streaming, does a panel have a preferred software to do text comms? I'm thinking of some kind of HTML page that I can key out so the talent sees it on their confidence monitor.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, we normally use Stage Timer for this exact task, and they have a Stage Timer coming up. Or we use some kind of chroma keying or keying onto the image if it's an image being sent to the confidence monitor. But normally we use a Stage Timer as this type of, and we can blink it, we can change color on it. It's connected to the countdown timers, etc. So it's very easy and understandable for the on-screen talent.
Yeah, we've used a lot of different things for this. So one of them that we've used is actually Keynote, where we can just type something in and then push it over. And so Keynote is something that's a relatively straightforward, and PowerPoint I'm sure would work the same idea. And then we've also, of course, there's some tools built into Makana that'll let us do it. So I tend to use my own tool for that. But as far as a presentation tool, generally is something that you can run in. The main thing is figuring out how you're going to key it and what happens in between. So the big thing is being able to set up the message and then update it. And but anything that also runs computer graphics, so SPX could potentially do that. Singular could do it. There's lots of things where you set up where, as long as you can type something separately from what's being displayed, you should be okay. Next question.
Hazmat Gajar is back from Cape Town. Another question for Ken. You said that AI tools have exponentially increased your productivity and saved you much time in your web development and management. Can you mention your key AI tools and why you use them?
Go ahead, Ken.
Yes, ChatGPT for building GPTs, but now I mainly use Claude.ai, Sonnet 3.5, because it has this thing called projects. So you can import PDFs, documents. So you build your own library. So when you're questioning it or using the large language model, it will pull from your library of data and input that you can do. ChatGPT only a few weeks ago brought out a similar option as well, where you can store a large amount of you build your own library basically, and then pull directly from that. Midjourney obviously for images, but mainly Claude.ai. But Google's new releases are they were for us for what we were doing. They were a very lowly third. It was all ChatGPT and Claude.ai, but they really have hit the ball out the park with VO. That is very, very impressive, and so it's a good fight that the three of them are constantly having, and then all the other as well as all the other large language models. But it is for us, for our work, it's enabled us to produce far more work, far better, and in an unbelievably shorter time scale, especially coding, the kind of coding we need to do, which isn't that sophisticated, it's just PHP and CSS stuff. These models are just producing work that would literally take us minutes, or what would normally have taken days to do. So it's Claude.ai is my main one, but I still use ChatGPT every day as well.
That's great. If you have questions, of course, you can ask them in Makana. You can also vote on those questions. Your voting matters because it tells us what you want us, in what order you'd like us to go through the questions. We don't always get to the bottom of the question bin at the end of the hour, though we might today. We're running a little short. So but go ahead and throw those questions in. If you don't know how to get to Makana, you can go to officehours.global/join, fill that out, and within a day you'll start getting emails, and it'll tell you how to get to Discord and how to get to Makana and all those other fun things. Next question.
Mariella Sushimeira is back from Webelow. If me and my classmates use royalty-free music from a paid service on a commercial video, can we keep broadcasting said video even after we cancel the shared subscription to that service? Are we allowed to keep using music or assets on new projects?
Good running.
I know that YouTube have a kind of a gallery of music that you can use for that specific case, but and continue to use that afterwards if you have published this, at least publish it through YouTube. We tend to use Artlist.io, and Artlist.io does not allow us to use the products that we use their music for after we end the subscription for Artlist.io. It could be different for other, and there could be some free galleries that you can use for this, but the general consensus is that it's not allowed.
I go, Ken.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Artlist, because that's one of the ones I thought that they did allow you to, even if you've downloaded music, even after your subscription, you can still use it. Soundstripe definitely does that. So it depends on the where you got the royalty-free music from. But I'm actually opposite to what you said. The majority actually do, even after your subscription, allow you to continue to use the royalty-free. Soundstripe does. Audio, no, it's Audilo, Audilo. That's another one that even if after your subscription has ended, you can still use the music royalty-free.
Go, Bill.
Yeah, this is one of those it depends things. You know, every rights holder of the music that you use has the right to do their own terms of service. And unfortunately, those mice-type 64-page terms of services are common in all of those big operations. One of the things that I'm really happy I learned early, we used to have to do cue sheets back in the very beginning of my career to make sure that all the copyright material you used was listed. I learned at that point that whenever I drop something into any of my timelines, whether it's a buyout graphic or a song or whatever, I put a link to where I got it in my notes that attaches stickily to the file, so that when I pull up an old video, I can go back in my notes and reference the source I got it from. And if there's a question about rights management, then I can go look at their terms of service. And sometimes in the old days, I don't do it as much anymore, I used to copy those terms of services and just put them all in a folder so that, you know, when I created this video, I used this piece of asset, and here are the terms of service for the use of that. I just want to make sure that I have my documentation in order, because rights management is harder and harder in the digital era.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, just wanted to add that we're now using, again, another AI product, Suno. Version 4, the quality of that audio, if it's only for YouTube, is more than good enough for that. And if you generate your own, then you don't have those kind of copyright issues. So, you know, if you can't, pay an artist to do it, Suno is a good next step in being able to generate your own, and its quality of that audio for YouTube background music is great. And that's another way.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I think that there was this huge market of stock photography and stock video, and even just things that are trying to generate a feeling but don't need to be specific, that I think just AI just rips through. I mean, just because it's just like it didn't. I look at it all. In the United States, all the drug ads, all the the prescription drug ads with people like standing on the hill or smiling while they're in the garden or whatever. I'm always like, oh, that business is done. like it's with some airy music. I was like, that's all AI at this point, or will be, because it doesn't matter in the same way. So I do believe subscription services like Epidemic. I've used Epidemic in the past, and they will let you use it after you've stopped the subscription. But you have to remember that when you talk about broadcast, where are you broadcasting to? A lot of these licenses do not license you. The basic license that you bought does not get you to broadcast or film or other things like that. So there's a lot of, or using it in an album or something like that. There's additional licenses that are required. So it's not just whether you have the subscription or not, but what did the subscription allow you to actually produce with that content? And oftentimes it's a lot more limited than you think it is. Next question.
Syed Wash in Rabat, Morocco. Welcome. My question for Alex Lindsay: can you wear the Vision Pro and shokz OpenSwim Pro at the same time comfortably? I need to be in multiple calls at the same time, and I don't want to have live audio bleeding from one call to the other.
I think we answered this before, but I couldn't remember, so I went ahead and let it roll through. But the answer is you probably could, but I would never do it. So especially I would not swim with my Vision Pro. But even if I was in dry land, I don't think you could use comfortably that you would be able to use the bone induction at the same time as as I use the headset. Maybe you can make that work, but I think it'd be a pretty uncomfortable setup. So I just don't think you probably could. But I think that if you're doing multiple calls at the same time, I'd think about that. I don't even like doing one call at the same time off most of my day. But multiple calls I think think about, I think I'd probably do in-ear. I think you could probably get up to 3 calls if you had bone conduction on your openswim, and then 1 call in each ear. You get 3 calls going on at the same time. I think that would be about the most I could handle. Next question.
Tony Mobley, Noonan, Georgia, up next. Tony wonders, panel, would you recommend a MacMini M4 or an Apple TV for classroom teachers, or both?
I'll go with Courtney.
Probably go with the Apple TV. With classroom teachers, it depends on the content, where it's coming from that you want to be serving up to your students. And access security is another issue. It might be better just to use Apple TV as a display device hooked up to a big screen TV. And then the teachers could bring in their own laptops or phones even to AirPlay to that Apple TV if they want to present something unique that's not available to stream live or like YouTube or something that they want to show. You will have to go into the security settings and set to require device verification. That's important on the Apple TV, so you don't have the kids suddenly AirPlaying their own phones to the big screen in the middle of the thing, because they can be devious, those little kids. So you have to think of security. But I think if you just use it as a display device and let different teachers that may be using that same classroom come in with their own computers and or phones or iPads, whatever they want to present stuff on, they could prepare it outside the classroom and then bring it in. It'd be a little easier than having to deal with a fixed computer that always stays in the classroom.
I go, Jason.
Yeah, as Courtney said, it really depends on what you're after here. The Apple TV is an excellent consumption device. It does that last quarter mile between the presentation and whatever it is you're putting into the presentation box, the TV or projector or what have you. The Apple TV is more of an originator, a creator device. It's very small. I mean, I really like that I can. I mean, no joke, it would fit in a cargo pocket or a large pants pocket. The new ones are very, very tiny and can be moved pretty easily.
What's interesting is actually the 4K. I was just looking at it together. The 4K Apple TV and the Mac Mini are very close to the same size at this point. As far as how they go, I would say in general I'd agree that the Apple TV is probably the way to go. The only question is does the teacher have to generate content? So if they don't have a computer to generate that content, then it may be appropriate to have a Mac Mini that they could build stuff. Also, if teachers are leaning more towards science or if they're more technologically advanced in a specific classroom, there's a lot of things you could add to a Mac Mini that you couldn't necessarily do in an Apple TV. So I would say the general rule of thumb would be an Apple TV, and then it might get customized based on the teacher about what they have access to, as well as what they may want to create. Next question.
Mariella Zushamira is back from Webelow. Can Facebook Live producer graphics be used on other platforms?
Go ahead, Bill.
Like all these copyright questions, to me, this comes down to risk management. What are you risking if you use something that was licensed in one arena and you decide to use it in another? Maybe your risk
and are you familiar with the live producer graphics? So this is what used to be, I believe, VidPresso. And then it was incorporated into it. So these are live graphics tools that Facebook has built into it to produce lower thirds and other things like that. So that's what this, I think, specific question is. I mean, you could probably find some way to shovel those things out into something that you could key over, but I don't think that. Man, I wouldn't do it.
But aren't those available to use in Facebook? And if you use it and take it over to TikTok or something like that? It's just graphics.
I don't think anyone would even know. It wouldn't. It's not specific graphics. It's like lower thirds and stuff like that. But there's a lot of, I mean, you might be able to do that, but I sure wouldn't try. Like there's so many great tools, whether it's, again, SPX or a Singular or many other tools that are, H2R graphics. There's so many other things to, there's so many other tools that are really good at this. Cobbling together some solution out of Facebook Live Producer is just, I wouldn't do it. So whether you can or not, I don't think it's a solid path. Next question.
Fair enough. Roz Humphrey in Comax, British Columbia, referring back to AI and video production, is anybody aware if anybody has developed a spreadsheet to organize the different services?
Go ahead, Ken.
One of the best websites that lists all the new stuff in AI, and there's a lot, and has a really good engine to search and to rank them by, is futuretools.ai. I'll put a link in the chat, but futuretools.ai is what I would use to kind of if you're looking for a kind of where it lists them all and gives you a summary about each one. I think that's a good starting point.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, Ken nailed it. I was going to show you here, futuretools. It's .io is the extension, at least here in America. Maybe it's different in Ireland. But it has this a great website that you just choose what categories you want to include, and you can select different things. And as you're selecting these things, it is reorganizing the web page so that it then shows you just the things that are limited to the things that you checked off at the top of the web page, which is great. And then you can even select, okay, just show me the free ones, and just show me the ones that are open source, or just show me the ones that you pay for or freemium. So it's great. Matt Wolf has put this together. And if you go to Matt Wolf's website, he also does a weekly or sometimes daily, depending on how fast it's moving, review of what's new, and shows you video samples and comparisons of different AI tools and video generators, et cetera. So he stays pretty much on top of everything, and I think he is the one that organizes this website.
Next question.
Hasma Gajar in Cape Town, South Africa is up next. In our business, we have different generations of iMacs, MacMinis, and MacBooks. How do we measure performance of these machines without relying on the date these machines shipped?
Good, Jason.
Okay, this is a tricky one, but I would say this has become a lot easier since Apple Silicon. Basically, for me, is it Apple Silicon, in which case it can take most of what I could throw at it. And if it's not, then it better be doing something really specific. It better just be glue. It better be serving files and what have you. That's become a lot easier in the last 5 years, at least for me.
Yeah, at this point, I would probably put to sleep anything that isn't an M series chip from a Mac perspective. Again, you can use them as glue and clocks and things like that, but it's just that the OS is not looking backwards, and so it is. I think we're getting pretty close to them being declared legacy at this point. So I'm not sure if it. Again, they're not bad for connecting things together or doing some basic server tools, but I wouldn't use them for any work at this point. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, if you just want to compare the performance, you could use a site called Geekbench just to compare the performance of each of the machines so that you can evaluate the performance differences between all those machines and have it. You can also download performance software measurements yourself and do your performance monitoring yourself as well. So
yeah, and Cinebench is another one that Maxon builds. That is another one you can run tests on as well. Next question.
Tony Mobley, Noonan, Georgia, is back with Kenn's drone shots are amazing. Any advice for people considering doing drones?
Go ahead, Ken.
Hi, yes. I own a number of drones. The DJI Neo is one of the cheapest ones, and it works autonomously. But the one that I use all the time is this. This is the Hover Air X1 Pro Max. I believe that's the name of it. It can shoot 8K. It's autonomous, so you can program it by a little screen up here, or from your phone. and it folds up so you can fit in a large pocket. And this is, even though I've got a number of drones to choose from, this one, because it's always with me, is the one that I use. The quality of the video on this is quite good, I think.
Is it a 4K camera?
8K camera.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable. It's actually an 8K camera that's in this. Wow. And the gimbal is a 3-axis that's on here, and you can change the filters on it. So the Hover Air X1 Pro Max is my go-to autonomous drone. So yeah, it's really good.
That's really cool. Yeah, go running.
Yeah, I'll be the grumpy old bearded man. First and foremost, if you're going to start doing drones, please make sure that you know what you are doing before purchasing anything. If it's below 250 grams, you can do pretty much everything you would like to, even fly over people. But there are different rules in each country, and even each country has different parts of the country that has different rules. So if you are going to fly drones, make sure you are not close by an airport. That could also include heliports. It could also include ships with heliports. So make sure you know where you're flying. DJI has this app which sometimes prevent you from flying where you shouldn't be flying, but it's not always updated. So sometimes it's even denying you to fly where you are allowed to fly. Each country also have different ways of reporting your flying. So if you're going to be flying bigger drones over 250 grams, you probably need some kind of licensing. And you should then be reporting probably to your local airport tower so that they know and can have and note them posted to all the helicopters, etc., that might be flying below 120 meters above ground level. So make sure you are really into the rules and do not try to do stuff that are illegal. Here in my home city in Tromsø, Norway, we have a big glass monter for placing very expensive equipment that has been captured by the police. Mainly from tourists flying where they shouldn't be flying. And that monter is really, really getting, what do you call it, Alex? The wall of depreciation.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Ken, is it primarily, can you control that drone, or is it mostly just designed to be an a totally automatic drone?
You can control it. You can link it to your phone. Okay. And then you can control it. Use the phone as a remote control to put it. You put it in manual mode, and then you can use your phone, and then you can control it from that as well.
And how does it know who to follow? Like if
it uses AI into it. When you turn it on, you need to look into the camera, and then it maps you. And then so when you're off and you're cycling or running, and then it follows you because it's mapped you into it. So it takes about a second or two just to map you as the object to follow or to rotate around, and then that's how it works. But yeah, super impressed with it, and they're all, again, it's under, as Ronnie's saying, these are all under 250 grams, so don't require a license. Even though I do have a license, I have a license for my other drones, but yeah, you don't need one with this because it is under the 250 gram limit.
That became a big business here. It's getting under that limit. Let's make this small.
Yeah. Most of them are now. So yeah. It's yeah.
That's really interesting. Next question.
Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas, is back. Why does the behavior known as catastrophizing make meaningful discussion and debate nearly impossible in your production business?
Go, Jason.
The answer is in the definition. Catastrophizing is the amplification of small issues into larger issues. And in production, you are trained, you learn just not to panic under any situation. And so anytime you have a group of people and there's one person who's taking something small and amplifying it, inflating it, they're not going to last long.
Go ahead, Nigel.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. My only net add would be emotion is a very important thing, but there's a time and a place for it. And if you get the time and place wrong in production, in life, you throw, either you throw everything off or you throw yourself out of the boat. So all of those things are worth avoiding.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, we used to call this making a mountain out of a molehill. And if anyone has fear of failure, this can kind of sabotage a live production, because the fear that the worst will happen will prevent you from actually doing your best or paying attention to what you're doing, and worrying too much about things going wrong. So you have to kind of just put those feelings aside. And if you have somebody that is catastrophizing, yes, you might want to give them a less frontline position and let them observe that things don't always go wrong and can a lot of times go right. And if things do go wrong, just keep your head down and move on. What does that British saying?
Stiff upper lip.
Stiff upper lip. Go ahead, Chris. I'm Bill. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it doesn't necessarily even have to be catastrophizing. It can be just constantly focusing on what might go wrong, even in small areas. I've seen a lot of interactions with clients around boardroom tables where somebody just says, well, we got to watch out for this, and we got to watch out for this, and we got to watch out for this. And they don't have to be catastrophes. They can just be constantly looking at what can go wrong. And it just kind of spins a little negativity. I learned really early in my career to, if I had things I thought might get in the way of a production, bring them up, but immediately say, but we can take care of that. So that you constantly build this feeling of competence, as opposed to your focus is entirely on what can happen that won't work.
Yeah, and I will say, though, that on the other side of this is that a lot of folks are kind of like, oh, well, we'll just see how it goes. And there's some of us that are like, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll actually try to figure out, like, there are some things that live in that 1%. In my opinion, risk equals the chance of something going wrong multiplied by the consequences. And so the thing is if your consequences are very low, then if the chances are high, it doesn't really matter, or higher. If the consequences are very big, then you do have to pay attention to all these little things. And we find that what happens in live is not so much that people catastrophize things. It's that they don't think things are important. I had a situation where I said, we need a sat truck because they only had one connection. And I was like, we need a sat truck. And they said, how often has this failed at this location? And I said, it's never failed at this location, but I've definitely seen it fail out of 2,000. And they're like, out of 2,000 events, how many times have you needed to go to the sat truck? And I was like, 4 or 5, and man, was it great when we were able to just drop over to a sat truck. And so an hour before the event that I fought for that sat truck, and people said that I was catastrophizing. That's why I'm bringing this up, is they said that I was just like looking at all these little things that could possibly go wrong. An hour before the event, we switched over to the sat truck. So that, because the internet connection had failed, and that would have been, tens of thousands of people who paid money to watch something that they wouldn't have seen the event, and so the thing is that and the chances of that happening was less than 1%. So just be careful of deciding that things are, if you can definitely go down a path of thinking that things aren't going to work, but the people who are kind of lackadaisical around live events and think that the chances of that happening are very low, so we won't manage that process, are the people that I take work from. And I take your work, because it only takes one failure in live streaming to end your relationship with your client. Like one, you only get to fail once. With most clients, they'll just go, well, we're not going to do this again with you. And for the largest events that I have backup to the backup to, I have 4 ways out, and they're different paths out. And people think that I'm paranoid, but I don't fail very often, And so I think that you just got to be very careful of thinking that something is, you're making a mountain out of a molehill, when sometimes the molehill is required to make this work. What we do is complicated and difficult and dangerous. Next question.
Craig McFarlane in Boston, Massachusetts wonders, do any of you have year-end rituals such as purging unused apps, gear, or subscriptions? I had missed answered yesterday and couldn't rewind.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yes, as far as paperwork goes, I go through my filing cabinets and pull all the file folders that are pertinent to this year that only have, and I generate new file folders for each year. And I put them in a banker's box, so I retire them to the archives. Do the same thing with my hard drives and with client files. anything that has been completed, any project that has been completed, I put it into a folder and move it into the NAS and completed jobs area. And sometimes I store them by year or sometimes by job name so that they're searchable. If I have to go back there and look at what did we do on that job 4 years ago? And then that way I can still find it and still have all the materials that relate to that production or that job available if I want to refer to it in the future. So yeah, there's a cleaning out, and it is a good idea to go through your subscriptions. I just started doing that yesterday and realized that I have to rearrange all of my subscriptions to my streaming stuff because bundling changes and deals evolve, and you can sometimes lower the price of your subscription substantially if you change the way things are bundled, because Disney is now has Hulu, and ESPN and/or Max is now available on Disney. So, if you combine those three, it might be cheaper than your original Max subscription on YouTube. Anyway, this afternoon, I'm going to go pull a bunch of them off of my YouTube TV subscription and move them to another bundle to save on a monthly fee. And that does stack up if you realize that, I can get by for $40 less a month, save some money.
Go, Jason.
Yeah, I definitely roll the archives, which is my word for what Courtney is describing. I also, at the end of every year, break out a fountain pen, and the best 10 clients of that year get a handwritten note. And it's just kind of a process of gratitude for me. And it's served me well in the past. And really, it's more of an exercise than anything else. But yeah, it's been pretty well appreciated.
Go, Bill.
Love that idea, Jason. I think that's always been, we paid a lot of attention to small client gifts and things like that at the end of the year, because it really does make a difference to reach out to people personally. The other thing I was going to note is that I used to do a big one at the end of every year, but that got too late for me. And I found that I took a lot of the ones I was doing at the end of the year and moved them into looking at them quarterly, because those things like drip subscriptions that are draining your funds for no reason because you don't really need them, I don't want to wait a whole year to turn that off if there's one that has suddenly become irrelevant. So I try to do one at the end of the year for the overall stuff, but I also try to do quarterly ones when I can, to just do a quick look down the year-end list and say, is there anything I can just knock off right now that'll stop it early? My 2 cents.
Good, Nigel.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a year-end thing, but I've discovered every time we move, that's a really good time to go through all the technology and all the boxes and say, if I haven't used it for 3 years, do I still need it? And well, my desire is typically to go yes. I found that when I say no, it still may be worth something. And I know as a group, we're pretty much hoarders of technology, but at some point when you don't need those fluorescent lights anymore.
I make a fire. so my family and I make a bonfire, and we sit outside. Not a bonfire, but it's a controlled environment, and it rains a lot right now. So it's one of the only times we can actually build fires outside. So usually at the end of I've done it pretty much, unless it's raining really hard. I've done it every year for decades. Never make it to midnight. I just get done at 8 or 9 and go, okay, it's time to go to bed. Next question.
Roger in the Tonto Basin in Arizona says, what pan-tilt zoom camera and switcher for producing a live stream on a budget, 4K preferred, for YouTube, small church setting, camera should be no further than 15 feet from the platform?
Go ahead, Ronnie.
First and foremost, I don't know why you would like to stream in 4K, but you probably have your reasons for that. And being a budget camera, I know there are different opinions about this, but really, really budget with really limited functionality would be as easy as Insta360 links going into maybe a MacMini M4, running something like Mimo Live or other different software solutions. The next step up would probably be still using Mimo Live on the computer and then getting the high bandwidth Ethernet option for it, the 10 gig option, and then add something like maybe the new OBSPOT cameras that are supposedly going to be supporting a lot of protocols like NDI and SRT, among others. And of course, the next step up from that would be something like PT set optics or even Panasonic, maybe used ones. Used PT set cameras are probably a good way to test out this. Just make sure they have the needed protocols, or if you need to go on baseband cables like SDI, etc., you of course need another solution for ingesting those signals. You could still be using a software like Mimo Live, but then you need an external cabinet with probably a DeckLink card or similar to ingest those camera links, or maybe you just go with a bigger hardware mixer or vision mixer to do the job. It could also be getting a used one if you would go that way.
And Gary Lund suggested an Insta360 link, which might work if you had some kind of computer that was right down below and you'd have a little webcam. For most PTZs that are at that size, I just don't know if you'd see any difference. But I have to admit, for me, anything less than a 1 inch chip, I feel like, well, you're not going to see any difference. You might as well just get an Insta360 link as far as I'm concerned. When you start seeing 1/2 inch chips or whatever, I mean, you get a lot of, for what you're doing is pretty basic. The other thing that I'll say that, I've worked with a lot of house of worships of almost every different denomination and what's most successful, people don't want to do it, but what's the most successful is when you go to a house of worship and, like the one around here has like 2 or 3 services, right? Because there's so many people, they can't put them all in the same. There's a 9 o'clock service and there's 11:45 for a service, and sometimes there's a 3 o'clock service. The most successful online incorporation has been to build a virtual service. So it's a service that doesn't have anybody in the room. It's just another service, and it's designed around the online audience that can't make it. What we find is that, when people are doing a lot of the other things, unless you've got a lot of cameras and a really good production. So there are some house of worships that have, they have a production studio, they have jibs, they have lots of things, and they can pull it off. They can pull off you feeling like you're there. But the other thing is the behavior that we see from people in those house, that do those. They don't watch any of the singing. They don't watch anything. They just want to hear the sermon, and they're not even watching it. Like you look at a TD Jakes, is probably the most popular person doing this right now. He'll have 70,000 people watching live on YouTube, but they're not watching. They're listening. They're walking around. They're doing things. They're listening. They have it open on YouTube because that's where it's available. If you made it available on audio, they would just listen to it. So you just and he's got pretty good. He's got a headset mic and he's got a pretty good audio setup. But that's he's got a $3 or $4 million production studio that no one's watching. So I think that's the thing to kind of keep in mind. But where we see house of worships, and again, we haven't seen it, different religions, different process. It's all this. It hasn't really changed the fact that people want to be connected. And if the person who's giving that is doing something in a very personal way, we end up with people are much more likely to be engaged, much more likely to come more often, much more likely to give money, to donate money to the church. So there's all of those things are more successful. We only see a handful of folks do it, but especially when you're under a tight budget, think about that. And again, it's hard sometimes because the first person giving it doesn't want to give it again. But that's up to them. But if they really want to be effective, it's not close. Like it is, I don't know, orders of magnitude more effective than trying to put one camera in the room. It just doesn't, it's not a very compelling solution. Next question.
Paul Wallace, Austin, Texas. Paul this time asked, TimeCapsule, not the Apple one, but this is a different one, extends AirTag battery life from 1 year to 10 years. Remove the standard coin battery and put the AirTag in this waterproof case that uses 2 AA batteries. How would you use it? And he's got a link there. It's an Elevation Labs product.
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, as soon as Paul posted this, I went to the link, wanted to order a whole bunch of them, but unfortunately only delivers to the US. But if it was available in Europe, then I would be basically wherever I use a lot of AirTags. They're in all of my production bag kits and stuff like that. And yeah, one where I can extend the battery to 10 years, and I can literally put it in and forget it almost. So yeah, that's where I'll be using it. Wherever I use my present AirTags, I'll be replacing them with that. Because yeah, for 10 years, then you just don't have to really think about it. Well, in 10 years' time, obviously, but yeah, that's what I would use it for.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, they have unfortunately sold out. They won't be back in stock until supposedly the end of January. But this is what it looks like. It basically has a little round battery eliminator that you take the back of your AirTag off, stick it over the top of that thing, and then you seal it in with some Torx screws. It has IP69 seals the water out. One thing I wondered, and they show them using, they don't recommend alkaline batteries. These are Eveready Energizer Ultra Lithium, which are lithium cells, not lithium rechargeables, but lithium AA batteries, which last up to 25 years, depending upon the current drain. And they have a lot more current in them than a typical alkaline was. So you could probably get even more than 10 years if you use the recommended lithium batteries in there. One thing they haven't accommodated, I don't see accommodated, is any kind of desiccant in there, because once you seal that thing up, if it's IP69, it's going to seal any moisture inside the case as well. So you might want something in there to wick away any moisture that might be trapped in there when you seal it up, so that it doesn't corrode the the little metal battery eliminator in there. So, or you might maybe put it into a container that has a bunch of desiccant. Dry and dry or desiccant in it, and lower the humidity before you assemble it, and then assemble it in a very low humidity environment. And that way you're not trapping moisture in there for 10 years.
Go ahead, Nigel.
Yeah, rumors of a new one from Apple coming out this year with a longer range. You may want to wait and see what those look like.
Next question.
Craig McFarland, Boston, Massachusetts, up next. Is there any technology you're looking forward to at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show?
Go ahead, Nigel.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think it'll be about health, it'll be about AI, and it'll be about matter. And all of those are interesting. If you played the CES drinking game, this year's word is trust. We're going to see that word trust more than anywhere else. The two things we're not going to see, which I'd like to see, is more 8K content coming and Apple sorting out its home automation strategy.
Go, Jason.
Yeah, I found out I'm going, unless I'm snowed in, I will be flying to Denver. This sounds crazy. And then driving to CES with a drone buddy of mine. So I'm open to suggestions for the next week.
Next question.
Jeff Simmons in St. Louis, Missouri. Has anyone used Companion with NDI tools, like for switching inputs with an NDI monitor? Considering doing this, but wondering how well it works, if anyone has tried it.
I don't know if anyone's. We don't know the answer. So, I think that we'd have to take a look at this. I think this is Elias's software, isn't it? The NDI tool, or is this? This is not. I'm not sure. This is outside of our. We'll try this on a Friday. I got a lot of NDI folks on Fridays. Next question.
Danny Grizzle's up next from Longview, Texas. I've upgraded my iPad teleprompter with a HyperDeck Shuttle paired with a Hongo screen, purchased due to Coutney Goodin's recommendation. What's the ideal screen brightness? Is 300 candela limited?
Courtney?
Yes, 300 candelas is very limited. Remember, in a teleprompter situation, you're using partially silvered glass that only reflects, usually it's 70-30, which means it passes 70% of the light through the glass and only reflects 30% of the light. So you're going to drop the brightness of that monitor by 70% to the people that are reading it out front. So you need a monitor that has a much higher brightness than 3. You can get away with it in an indoor, low-level lighting situation. It'll be fine. If you got bright sunlight coming through the window, or you're going to be using it outdoor, even on a cloudy day, you're going to be hard-pressed to even read anything or see anything on that monitor with 300 candelas. You need to be up at least to 500. Typically, we like to see prompters that are going to be used in a variety of lighting situations, like professional studio lighting or outdoor lighting, up into the 1,000 nits or candelas at least, because remember, you're knocking 70% of that brightness is lost in that mirror.
Last question.
Eduardo Augustine comes to us from Panama City. This question is for Alex Lindsay. It seems like Netflix's Christmas NFL stream was actually produced by CBS. Wasn't this a great opportunity for networks to do their own, for Netflix to do their own thing like graphics and art? I felt the graphics and assets were too crowded. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it may have been produced by that, but I don't think those graphics didn't look like the CBS graphics. They look like they are their own graphics, and they're probably designed by Netflix. And I will agree with you that I felt like they were crowded and they weren't the best graphics I'd seen before for that. But it was very successful for Netflix. The streaming all worked, so the streaming worked. The audio was still a little bit challenging. I'm not sure why Netflix has so much trouble with just basic audio. It seems like I feel like whoever they're using, evidently they went back to them after the boxing, which was a mistake, and so I think that was a little odd. But the streaming seemed to be totally solid. They had very, very large streaming numbers. And unfortunately, as someone who doesn't really enjoy Christmas-based football, I just wish they'd leave that day alone. Unfortunately, it did well. So it'll probably be inflicted on us next year again. So anyway, there you go. my curmudgeon answer to that. I want to thank all the great questions from the producers. I really appreciate everybody's keeping this going. 7 days a week. You always get in here and you go, I don't know. Like this morning we got up and I was like, there's not that many questions. Maybe this might be a short one, right? And I was like, oh no, Kenn's here and Ronnie's here, and they've come and then we're gonna have a short show. They went through all this trouble to be here, and then what's gonna happen? What are we gonna look like here? And then of course the producers brought it all up and made it happen. If we didn't get to your question, by the way, we put it back into the notes, or we put it back into the QR code. The QR code will bring it up forward again. Try not to answer in the QR code. Sometimes we get the same question over and over again. Try not to do that because we'll either get to it or we won't. If it's complicated or we don't understand it, oftentimes it doesn't move forward. To try to be really clear there. But thanks so much for all those great questions. Thanks to the panelists. It was so good to see all of you here, especially Kenn and Ronnie, who we don't see as often as we'd like to. Hint. So can't wait to have you guys on more often. And thanks to the incredible team on the back end that makes this possible. There's a whole management team that is pushing questions forward, that is making sure that we're ready to go, that checks us before the show, that engineers the hardware and software that's required to make this happen. And it happens 7 days a week. We're approaching 5 years straight. So thanks to everyone who makes this possible. Now, if we had done this in person, going person to person to person, we would have traveled 52,000 miles in the Tlaloc Traversal. That is 84,000 kilometers, and that is 412 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. What happens when those bananas, we can't get those bananas anymore? They're going out. There's something.
Now that's catastrophizing, Alex. There are plenty of bananas.
But what if we run out of plastic to make them from?
Yeah. See, that's the problem. Is that as soon as I throw what do you call it? It's catastrophizing on one side, but what happens when you throw something away and need it the next day? And you've had it for 5 years and it's there going, I'm never going to.
That's Murphy's Law. That as soon as you throw it away, you will need it.
Exactly.
But then the problem is you've stored so many things you forgot that you have them, and you buy another one. That's what I get.
Or you just can't. You have the first one. You can't put your hands on it, so you buy another one. That's the worst example of that. Yeah,
scissors and box cutters for me. If I can't find a scissors or box cutters in a minute, I just go to Amazon and buy more. Just like eventually they're just going to be in every room, just floating around. Because I'm just like
flashlights, little flashlights. I probably have 40 of them.
Yeah, exactly.